All right, we are live. It looks like everything is working. Let me just make sure that the chat is going here. So if you're watching live, please say hello in the chat once. I know that it's working. And just let me know where you're from. If you have any questions as I'm talking along about the book and things, just let me know and I'll answer them. But hey, today's the day. My book is out there. Stop letting the job become your life. How to survive working in a high trauma environment without losing yourself. Right now it's available in ebook and paperback. However, the audiobook did get completed. So now it's just the process of waiting for Amazon to actually approve it. But it looks like it's going to be probably about Monday. That's fingers crossed is what I'm hoping. But I will announce it. I'll let everybody know when the audiobook is available. Because I know there are people waiting for that. If you need to get your own copy, the link is in the description to Amazon. You can just search for the title of the book, or actually very cool, one of the keywords that I used was Correction Officer Survival Guide. So if you want to search for that, it actually shows up as the #1 result, even though my book is not just for corrections officers. But, you know, that is one option to use for. Most of my clients are correction officers, so that's why that's, part of my keyword search. Okay, so I did make a list just so I can stay on track. So I didn't know if people would have questions or what they would want to say. Okay, just making sure. All right, so I am just making sure that it's all working well. So there we go. All right, so my agenda, pretty simple. I don't know how long it'll take. Shouldn't be, too long. Thank you for letting me know that it works, because I'm just sitting here I'm so used to talking to people like one-on-one and they're sitting in front of me. So this is very weird, just talking all willy-nilly. So that is why I made a list, because I got to have my talking points. Basically, I'm just going to explain what the book is about, who it's for. And then I'm going to talk about how you can win prizes just for buying it. And then eventually leaving a review and stuff. And then I'm going to read a section of the book so you can get a sneak peek of what it's actually about. If you're live, say hi. If you watch the replay, go ahead and leave a comment, because this video will still be on my YouTube. And if you have any questions, I'll come back and respond if needed. All right. So first of all, if it's not just for CO, who's it for? So this book is for anybody working in a high trauma environment. So that includes first responders, officers, ER doctors who I've also worked with, and that is a lot of trauma that they've experienced. So teachers, I've had teachers that have been exposed to like school shootings and school violence. And so they got to work with that heightened threat response to where, they're still on edge or bringing work home worried. So if that's you or a loved one, or you work with this population, then this book is going to be helpful for that. I didn't spend a lot of time going into detailed explanations. I don't like reading textbooks anyways, but the detailed explanation of the neurobiology and what's happening in the brain, I give very easy to understand explanations. So if your loved one reading it going, why is my partner acting this way? Why is my spouse acting this way? I wanted to explain that so you'd understand. And even as a therapist, if you're working with this population, easy to understand so you can explain it to them in that way. Because I know we learned stuff through the textbook and we're like, I'm never going to say that to a client. They're not going to know what I'm talking about. But the main focus of my book is the actual skills. It is full of tools and tips and things that you can use right away, literally from page 1, which is what I wanted. And the way the book is broken down is I addressed obviously there's the intro part and like what's going on. And then I go right into the skills. So it's the physical, the mental, the emotional, the energetic, because let's be real, you have no energy if you're working in these environments. You have these jobs, you're an officer, there's not a lot of energy, and there's an energy to the environment itself. You can feel that when you walk in and you're like, oh, this is heavy, this is hard, this is depressing, coworkers, or if you're in a prison and the inmates and stuff. So the energy is also affected by that. So I cover that. And then I actually cover processing the trauma. So the book is both proactive and all of those tools and skills that you should be using on the day-to-day to build a foundation of good, healthy coping skills. And then reactive, so that way when the trauma actually happens, when an incident happens, I cover how to process that so it doesn't get stuck in the mind or the body, which a lot of things do get stuck in the body physically, which is why there's so many health issues. Unfortunately, the statistics for officers aren't very good because those emotions weigh on the body. You have things like high blood pressure from the stress, from the long-term cortisol. Heart attacks are higher, on top of the alcohol use and the other things and the unhealthy lifestyle, or, vending machine or fast food or these other things that happen in combination with it. And then at the end of the book, I talk about transitioning out of the uniform. So it doesn't matter how you leave in the sense of it's still part of your identity. So whether you get to retirement and you're like, yeah, I'm done. You've worked there long enough that that's your identity. It's part of who you are. Sometimes it's hard to let that go and really just be done with the job. You can often still be in work mode. So this book is for people who are currently in the job, but also those that are already out, because just because you're not physically there anymore doesn't mean it's not necessarily part of who you are, or it still carries over, or you find that you're still, hyper vigilant or stressed, or looking at things the same way as you did an officer. I mean, you go into Walmart and you're assessing for threats and people that used to be inmates or potential criminals, things like that. It can still affect you, even if you're like, oh, I don't work there anymore. It's almost like, I mean, even the longer you there, the more it's ingrained in who you are. So how to get back to identity of being a person, not just a job title, because you are more than that. So again, whether you leave because you retire, or also knowing that it's hard, that if there's like a physical reason, like say you got actually physically disabled at work because you were injured and so you had to leave the job sooner than you wanted to, you couldn't complete it. There's a lot of, guilt and shame that can come with that. Like somehow like you didn't make it. I cover all that emotional stuff. Again, part of the identity, part of the transition. Or if you're just like, you know what, I did it for 5 years. This isn't the environment for me. I don't want to do this anymore. How do I get another job? Most of the time, officers, first responders are like, well, this is what I know. I don't know how to get out of here. I can't work with a normal population, which again, as a therapist, nobody's normal, nobody. But I understand how that can be difficult. And so I cover that as well. So in the job, left the job, wanting to leave the job, beginning of the career, middle of the career, it doesn't matter where you are in this. This is tools and skills. That's what I wanted it to be. I am a let's get shit done kind of person. So that's what I wanted it to cover, things that you can actually apply in all those areas: mentally, physically, emotionally, energetically, identity, transition, all of that stuff. All right. So when I was doing research for the book, because obviously, you don't want to copy what's already out there. Hard to do when there's nothing out there. It's not to say there's nothing, but in looking for a book specifically for correction officers, because that was the majority of my population, there isn't. There's a lot of like law enforcement, and then it could carry over, but there were some differences. The issue that I found was a lot of the books that are out there, and I'm not going to name any or, badmouth any of them or whatever, but it was either textbook, which I don't like. I went to grad school. I will never read another textbook again. So it was either textbook, and I didn't like that. So I was like, I needed this to be more personable, easier to read, easier to understand. So I wanted to do something like that where it's more conversational. But also I read some books that were supposed to be tools and skills, and I had to read 100 pages before I got to one actual skill. It was all vague. You need work-life balance. You need stress management skills. What does that mean? It's that vagueness that I found that my clients would come in and be like, well, we, had a mental health training at work, and they said we need work-life balance. They didn't tell us how, because we're working 16-hour, shifts, and we don't have time to have hobbies or relationships. Or what does that mean? What does that look like? Or stress management skills. Other than take a couple of deep breaths, most people didn't know what those skills actually were or meant. And I wanted to make sure that I covered that to take the vagueness out of it. I mean, people talk about these things, healthy coping skills. Yeah, they know they shouldn't drink that much. They should probably eat healthier. They should probably go to the gym. But again, if you don't have time and you're exhausted from working 16 hours, you need something quicker. You need something faster. Which is also why on my website, one of my downloads that I have is the quickest coping skills download. And it's 10 skills, all of which are in less than 30 seconds each, because sometimes that's all you have. You have 30 seconds to be able to manage stress or cope with something. So that's also out there. I couldn't cover everything in the book, obviously. I mean, it's not going to be a 400-page book of everything I've ever said to every single client. But it is a great place to start. It does not replace therapy if you are struggling, especially with, flashbacks, nightmares, a lot of trauma that you're not able to, process on your own, any suicidal ideation, anything like that, depression. Go see a therapist. I know it's not always easy. Again, the time factor and stuff, but this is a good place to start. If you, again, just looking for somewhere to start, manage tools, skills. It does not replace therapy. It does not replace having somebody actually listen to you. And that's the thing, like being able to find somebody safe you can talk to. Sometimes it is a therapist. Officers don't always feel comfortable talking with their spouses or their loved ones because they don't want to worry them. They don't want to cause them more anxiety. They don't want them to know the nitty gritty and the gory because they'd rather just forget it. So it's good to have a person to talk to. I talk about building that too, the social network. You got to have people you can talk to about the work stuff who understand, but you also need people to talk about that's not just work. Because that's another thing, getting stuck in just work talk all the time. Oh, what's the worst thing you saw? Oh, what was that like? Like, it's not all glory. Like, it's trauma. And and minimizing that and not realizing how that can affect you can make it even worse. So good place to start. But if you need a therapist, obviously I support seeing a therapist and getting the help that you actually need. All right. So basically kind of covers the stuff that I was thinking of. If you have any questions, let me know. That's kind of the overview of the book and what you'll find in it. All right, so I will go over the prizes and then I will read a section of the book and let you know kind of like, sneak peek what to expect. So in order to win prizes, because we all like free shit anyways, first of all, just buy the book. First 20 people that buy the book and send me an email with the order confirmation number, just to, show that you actually bought it, you'll be entered to win one of 3 free signed copies of the paperback, and I will mail that out to you. I'll do another like little short video to announce the winners and all that when that happens. Several people have already emailed me, which is great. I also know it's the middle of the day on the Wednesday. My second and third shifters are probably still asleep, and the first shifters are obviously at work. So I'm not in a rush to be like, I gotta send this out. Give everybody a fair chance. So just start by buying the book, send me proof that you did, and be entered to win that prize. The other ones, basically buy the book, leave a review, and tell people about it. That's all I'm asking you to do. However, Amazon prioritizes verified reviews. So in order to do a verified review, that means for the ebook, you need to swipe to at least 30%. For the paperback, you can leave a review after it's been delivered, 48 hours later. So once it's officially, showed up as delivered, you wait 48 hours and then you can leave a review. And then the audiobook, which is coming very, very soon, you just have to listen to at least an hour, which means you don't have to read the entire book, especially if you're like, I read slow, I'm not gonna be able to get through it all and leave a review and, win a prize. You don't have to read the entire thing. You can, read some of it. You can update the review later, but as long as you do 30% or wait the 2 days or, listen for an hour, you can leave a review. So send a screenshot of the review that you left, email it to me. I mean, people know how to get a hold of me, depending upon who you are, Facebook message, text, whatever. But, just send an email is fine too, of the screenshot, and you'll be entered to win the prizes. For the first 7 days, which I also understand does kind of prioritize people who bought the ebook, but is what it is. Some people who bought it today, if they have Prime, the book's coming Friday, gives them the weekend to read a couple chapters, and then come Monday, they can leave a review, and that's fine too. But for the first 7 days, the people that leave the review, send it to me. You can win an oil diffuser with oils, and I wrote it down because I was not going to remember. Lavender, peppermint, lemongrass, and grapefruit, and that is a $95 value. After 30 days, I'm going to tally up all of the reviews that are left and enter all of them into a prize winning, and that is an oil-shaped diffuser because he's really cute, with the oil blends Calm and Sniffle Ease. And Sniffle Ease is wonderful because it's just that. It's for the sniffles. It's for sinus junk. It's for this cold flu crap that goes around. So really good oil to use for that one. And then the grand prize, if in the first 30 days you leave a review and you share the link on any of your social medias, so Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I don't have a Twitter account, but I'll probably have to get one now. So if you leave that anywhere and just show me a picture that you shared it, any group that you're in. So again, you're not trying to break any rules. I know some groups don't allow you to advertise or whatever. But if you're part of like a community, for your city or, your area, or if you're in an officer group for spouses, for officer themselves, therapist, whatever, if you can, rightfully show a picture that you shared the link to the Amazon, purchase page for my book that you talked about it, advertised it, whatever, and your actual review. You send those 2 pictures to me and you'll be entered into the grand prize, which is an everyday oil set, which is 10 or 12. I can't remember. Anyways, it's a set of oils, worth $205. So that's the grand prize one. So one, I can give away free therapy. I'm like, hey, I'll give you a free therapy session. That is not legal. But essential oils, I'm a huge fan of because so the part of your brain that smells is very close to your part of your brain that has the memories. So if you are having stress, panic, especially a panic attack, flashback, that kind high anxiety stuff, if you have a smell that is a positive memory attached to it, or smells that commonly are calming and relaxing, which lavender is usually a pretty calming one that people enjoy to be like, oh, I just feel a little relaxed smelling that. But especially if it's attached to a positive memory, it can really shift you out of that panic attack or the flashback or the high anxiety because they're so close to each other in the brain, and it can take a matter of seconds. So if you smell like your spouse's perfume and it just takes you to that place of like, oh, this feels comforting. This is something I know I'm familiar with. Or you're like your grandma's cookies or something. Oh, this reminds me of grandma's, fresh baked bread or whatever. Those smells will help you bring out of that stress. Also, there's a lot of things you can use essential oils, folks. They're natural. So like, again, like muscle aches, sinus junk. You can use tea tree oil to clean mold in your shower, if that tells you anything. So there's some pretty good oils out there. And grapefruit oil is really good for addictions. So that's just interesting to know. And I did include a link in the description to the part of my website that talks about essential oils, because there's different things you can use. So like if you have issues with sleep, anxiety, PTSD, even just headaches, there's certain oils that can, really help with that. So I listed those there. So that's the prizes. Buy the book, leave a review, share it, send me pictures as proof, and you'll be entered to win. And I'll do different videos to announce those. All right. So any questions, anything that you wanted to know specifically about the book, just type it in, let me know. So first I'm just going to read off the chapter titles. So again, you know what to expect, a little sneak peek to be like, I don't know, is that really going to cover what I'm, thinking of, or, what I'm looking for? So chapter 1, taking action now. I literally give you coping skills from page 1 to start using. You don't need to read 100 pages because that's annoying. Assessing the damage. It's just that you got to, figure out where you are, potential side effects. The thing with officers is they look around and they see everybody in the same situation often. Like, oh, well, you drink that much too? Then it must be normal. Oh, you also are overweight? Oh, it must be normal. Like, so they're looking around and gauging what's normal or not from people that maybe don't already have healthy coping skills. So it's, oh, second divorce? That's pretty common. So really looking at assessing the damage to say, what are actual side effects of the trauma from the job? That just looking around and saying, oh, since we're all this bad, it must be normal. No, sometimes it's just, you're all that bad. So got to assess it, got to be honest about the situation before you can really even see progress, right? If you don't even know where you're starting, you might be like, oh my gosh, I was drinking, 6 beers a day, but I did these skills and I have some stress management in place and I'm only drinking 2 a day. It's, not your ideal yet. Obviously you don't want to be drinking every single day, but that's still progress. And sometimes you need to have those measures of, little steps of progress. It's not going to be instant overnight. Like, just like going to the gym, you don't see progress going to the gym one time. You steps that you take and you build up to something more. The daily grind, that's the physical aspects, the physical things you do. So your diet, your exercise, your sleep, like all the physical pieces of that, and the transition, which is super important, especially for loved one spouses to support the officer in the transition from work into home life. You cannot expect them to walk in the door after work and just instantly flip a switch and be like, oh, you're happy husband now. Oh, you're, attentive father. No, they're probably still yelling and on edge, and they need to burn through that adrenaline and take the edge off before they can interact, especially with a screaming child, because that will trigger anybody. Your mental shit show, that's the mental pieces. My hindsight story, I share some personal traumas of my own, especially working for state entities, to show what that looks like on the other side of it and healing. Feeling your humanity, that's the emotional side of it, allowing yourself to feel the emotions that, you can process. Shit hits the fan. Yeah, because it's going to. That's actually processing when shit hits the fan. May the force be with you. That's the energy. That's the energy of the place you walk in. It's heavy. It's depressing. Like, how do you protect against that? So you're not just living in the environment. You work in the environment, but it doesn't need to stay on you. And then getting out alive, the transition, and then change starts with you. And that's just that. It starts with you. You can't expect the department and any department that you work with to be like, oh, well, we see that you need, mental health, supports and stuff. They're getting better at wellness programs, but that doesn't mean everybody's on board with that. It costs money. It takes time. Not necessarily wanting to take time off of work if they're understaffed. So the culture support may take longer to change, but you can do things literally from page 1, from day 1. In 10 seconds, you can do something instead of waiting for the department to support and give you what you need. Also, it helps if you know what you need, then you can tell them too. All right, so just going to read a little expert from the section. Going to read a section from the book. So this is in chapter 1, just to give you an idea of the foundation. So same shit, different day. While treating these clients, I often hear the same symptoms and complaints. Here's a brief summary of what I've noticed. You're exhausted. You have no energy to make changes, to do the work outside of work to repair a relationship, fix a diet, find motivation to accomplish your goals, or hang out with people after dealing with unpleasant people all day long. You're tired all the time. My goal is to help you use the least amount of energy possible. I will show you how to be efficient mentally and physically to not waste what little energy you have left. I will teach you skills that are simple, quick, and easy to use. You've trained your body to produce high levels of adrenaline to do the job, but not to let it go outside of work. So your fight or flight response is always on, ready to go. Every area of your body, mentally, physically, emotionally, energetically, is going to be affected by too much adrenaline and cortisol, stress-related hormones. I will teach you how to burn through them faster and make lifestyle changes to help you stop producing so much, which is possible when your baseline threat response calms down. You have a high level of urgency and a big response if something doesn't happen right now your way on your time. Life or death decisions must be made in seconds, and now every decision, task, or conversation must happen in seconds right now. You've trained your brain to be efficient in assessing every situation for possible threats, which then generalizes to your personal life. Your brain overreacts to a low-level threat as if it's all going to kill you, so they all warrant a fight or flight response. You're short-fused and are prone to blowing up, but just as easily you can completely shut down and avoid something because it's overwhelming and you don't have the energy to deal with it. You've generalized people as threats, especially strangers. Being in crowds or meeting new people at social events, your kid's soccer game, or anywhere where there's lots of people are threats, so it's easier to avoid them. This also applies to people being different than you. They think and act differently than you do. They're from a different generation with different views and even language styles. It's unfamiliar and therefore could be a threat. You've also generalized what are appropriate social interactions based on your environment. That makes it hard to talk to a normal person given your dark sense of humor, overly critical negative judgment of others, and inability to share work stories when most people are talking about their day-to-day jobs. This includes the fact that either no one wants to hear the gory details of someone being stabbed, or worse, they want to know and constantly ask you about your experiences that you would rather forget. As a result, you often hear your partner or spouse complain about your lack of socializing or your inability to be good at it, followed by, "Why do you have to be such an asshole?" You've trained your emotions to shut up in order to do your job. Because your brain is so good at generalizing situations, it doesn't know how to turn those emotions back on outside of work. In time, you become numb, desensitized to other people's pain, and don't understand why your kid or spouse is so emotional about something that's just not a big deal compared to doing CPR on a dead body. When you've trained your brain to suppress unpleasant emotions like fear, sadness, anger, and guilt, it's harder to feel the desired emotions too, like joy, excitement, and passion. You often hear your partner complain, "You just don't care." Or the usual, "Why do you have to be so heartless?" You've trained your brain, emotions, and body to do your job and keep you safe and alive. It didn't happen overnight, but with practice, consistency, and repetition. And that's wonderful news. It means you can train yourself to respond differently to threats and triggers and to stop generalizing so you can get your life back. It will take the same methods of practice, consistency, and repetition, but some changes can happen in as little as 4 seconds. Some side effects that took years to create can be changed in just 2 weeks. Our bodies are designed for healing, and I will teach you how to support your body in that process. Unless you really are an asshole, then it might just take a little longer. So that's a little expert of, chapter 1, a little bit about what I've noticed as far as the generalizations, the population, what they experience. So that's all I really had as far as introducing the book, letting you know what it's about. So like I said, if you're catching the replay, leave a comment if you have any questions. Oh, I'm so glad. Well, thank you for joining live if you're able to do so. And check out the other things that I offer, especially if you order a paperback and you got to wait a couple days. I've got a lot of resources on my website, stuff that I couldn't just include in the book because, again, didn't need it to be 400 pages. So I've got blog posts that give details. I got free downloads. I've got things there. So, you can start getting help. You can look at supports for your partners, loved ones while you're waiting for the book to come. And if you need anything, just shoot me an email. All right. Have a good day, you guys.